Hi guys, in this unit we're going to be working on area. So I wanted to give an instructional video. There's a series of assignments that go from just starting with doing the area of squares and rectangles all the way through to doing calculating area with weird shapes that have a combination of squares and triangles mixed together. So we're going to go through a series of different skills to cover this, and with each activity, I have an example. I'll do the example on the board. You'll also see the example on the sheet itself. So you'll be able to see what I'm working on as you go. And then you'll have 3 to 5 practice problems that you can do on your own using the same skill. So to start out with, I wanted to talk about what is area. Okay, the two terms that usually go together are area and perimeter. Now, if you remember the difference, I like to talk about it like if we're going to make brownies and sell brownies, we would use a pan, right? The perimeter is going to give us the measurements of the pan going around the edges. So usually use a 13 by 9 pan. So we know that if this was 9, the other side is also going to be 9. If this top side is 13, the bottom is also going to be 13. So a perimeter would be like measuring around from one corner all the way back around. So we'd go 13 plus 9 plus 13 plus 9. That would give us our perimeter. But if we're trying to sell brownies, we're not so concerned about how big the perimeter is. We're trying to figure out how many brownies we would actually have to sell. And that's where we use our area. So the area, it talks about how many brownies do we actually have. So as you'll see there, we would divide this pan into square brownies to figure out how many brownies we could make. That's our area. So area is the amount of space inside a shape. Perimeter is if you were going to walk all the way around it, how far would you be walking? Okay? So on our first exercise, we're going to start with doing the perimeter of a rectangle or a square. So rectangles and squares have the same formula to figure out what the area is. So if this was a 3 by 4, we would have 1, 2, 3, and this way we'd have 4, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we were going to figure out the area, we would want to figure out a way to calculate how many squares are in there. One easy way to do that would just be to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we can always count. But where that becomes a problem is what if this was a bigger rectangle? What if it was a rectangle that was 200 by 500? Well, we'd have to put a lot of little tiny squares in there and have to do a whole lot of counting to figure out what the area is in that. So what we want to do is we want to use a formula so we can make our math a little easier. So what we would have is we would have 200 rows of 500, right? So we'd have 500. If we were going to do math, if we were going to add, we'd take that 500 and add it up 200 times. So if you see the 500, 200 times, you can put that times symbol in there. And I put the X in there. I don't know how well you guys can see that. I put the X in there for times, but we also know in our math class, we always like to use the circle for our times symbol. Because when we're doing algebra and we have the letter X, we don't want to have an X times an X. So we use a circle for our times. So what we've done here is we've got 200 times 500. That would give us, quick calculation, a 10 plus 4 zeros. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, that would be 100,000 squares in there. So we would definitely not want to count 100,000 squares, right? So we're going to use this multiplication format to calculate the area of our rectangles. So when we look at that, the way we would describe that with algebra is we took our length, which was 500, times our width, which was 200, to give us our area. So our area formula is going to be length times width equals area. Length times width equals area. So let's take a look at the example problem that you're going to have on exercise number 1. Let me go get it. Set it down somewhere. Bear with me for 1 minute while I look for it somewhere in my house that I set it down and I don't know where, which I always do. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. You guys know me, right? Always losing stuff. Nothing changes even when I'm at home. All right, so here's our example. We're going to put our formula up there. We've got area. And our formula for the area of a rectangle or square is length times width equals area. So on exercise number 1 in the area unit, you guys, I put down 5 problems for you to work on and 1 example. In our example, we have a rectangle. And that rectangle is 10 by 15. And if you hear that language, 10 by 15, by is another word for multiply. 10 times 15. So we're going to go ahead and pick one of these for length and one of these for width and substitute in our numbers like we do with algebra. So we're going to say, I'm going to go ahead and say that for my length, I'm going to use 15. So I substituted L with 15. And for my width, I used 10. Keeping my multiplication symbol in there, so I've got 15 times 10 equals area. So in this project, I'm perfectly happy with you guys using calculator functions. In fact, with most of the things that we're going to do, I'm going to say calculators are perfectly fine. So if you plug that into your calculator, you've got 15 times 10 equals 150. So 150 equals A, which is our area. So we have an answer of 150. I didn't put different types of units on this one. You can put yards or centimeters or feet or inches or whatever it is. So if we happen to use, let's say, feet, if we put a unit of measurement in there, we'd say it would be 150 square feet. But for most of these, I didn't put units of measurement. I just want to focus on the numbers. So our answer, our area is 150. So I hope that helps with this. Once you finish this one, go ahead and move on to the next one. They'll be listed in